this is so fundamentally critical to not wasting money. Because here's the deal, you guys, tactics are specific to the humans you are marketing to. So for instance, is your ad on Google? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Instagram? Is it somewhere else? We even have B2B services firms that are on Pinterest. So where is your ad? Because that ad is simply about, does your human being that you're trying to serve, do they go there? Do they go there for information? Is it a trustworthy source? Will they convert there? Because just because it worked on LinkedIn for somebody does not mean it's going to work for your buyer personas. This is how you make decisions that work. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I'm Dacia.
And I'm Daisy.
Now today we are going to tell you the truth about outsourced B2B lead generation. And the reason is because there's a whole bunch of very common scenarios that we hear even from our clients and then of course from our friends and from our audience about B2B lead gen. So Daisy, this has come up for both of us a number of times. Well, recently, just in the last couple of weeks, but also, holy cow, in the last 6 months, year, 18 months especially. So like, what are some of the ones you hear?
I hear the one that goes, we just want sales qualified leads. Only sales qualified leads. That's the thing that's going to fix our problem. The marketing qualified stuff, that takes too long. Yep. It takes too long. So what we should do is hire a bunch of contracted salespeople, and they'll go beat the bushes, and they'll get us those awesome sales qualified leads.
Yes, I hear that one a lot. And here's the funny thing. We, as marketers, want to provide sales qualified leads. Like we do, but there is a way that this works. But yes, I hear that one. Like all the other marketing nonsense, I'm like, we don't do marketing for marketing's sake. We do marketing for your revenue's sake. So yes, I hear that one too, definitely. One of the ones I have gotten a lot recently is, people getting a DM in LinkedIn or an email saying, we have 50,000 contacts in your exact target market. And they are pre-qualified, whatever that means, like it's a used sales, like a used car salesman or something. And we have this perfected system to get you X number of, meetings every single week with your most important buyers. Okay.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Always. And the part that really annoys me about that is like, you only pay per appointment booked. It's like, so you only pay every time your time is wasted, either sitting waiting for somebody to get on the phone or talking to them and realizing that has nothing to do with an actual qualified buyer. But you know what? They did the system.
They got a meeting.
They did. They got you a meeting with someone who's, for some reason, agreed to be on the phone with you, but has no interest in what it is you're offering.
Yes, exactly. And I think for me, like when I'm thinking about these appointment setters, there's a couple core assumptions behind them. And I think it just provokes customers to be like, oh, I want it to be easy. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, I
want this to be true.
Yeah.
Let it be true.
Exactly. So before we get into this, I think it's really important that before you guys just hit pause, that you hear us say, yes, actually, we do think B2B lead generation services can work if ... So we will tell you exactly how to get those working, but it's absolutely critical that we talk about the fundamental blind spots behind why they don't work first. So you were kind of mentioning these as like, I laugh because I keep wanting to call them like the deadly sins, but that's not really what they are. But they are the deadly blind spots or assumptions behind why people want this to work, but what they need to know.
Sure. I think one of the most common misconceptions that people have about B2B lead generation is that there's just some magic pool of buyers out there who are already primed to buy exactly what you're selling. Now, there are definitely people who are currently in buying mode, but that has nothing to do with whether or not they're primed to buy from you. So, just because you'd like marketing to be extremely simple, it's just like, oh, well, we put an ad out there. I just want to do the one where you put an ad out there and then people just call me and buy my thing. I actually had someone say that to me recently. Well, why don't we just do the tactic where you just put an ad and people call you and buy the thing? And I was like, if that was an option, do you think I would be recommending it for you? Absolutely, that would be amazing, but that's not how your buyers operate. That's not how they buy. And that's definitely not a brand position that you've earned in the market that makes that possible for you.
Well, and this comes back to, I mean, obviously our audience knows, I mean, we are B2B specialists, but business to business is complex. These are not whiz bang easy. Oh, I just flippantly wanted that pack of gum or that drink or that t-shirt. And then on top of that, humans making these type of decisions are also complex. So to think that there is just this primed market that needs no comparison, no context, no research, none of the quote unquote slowing down that irritates people because they just want primed buyers. It's not how human beings make business decisions. And so, that idea, we say this a lot, and it probably drives our customers crazy, but it's so important that you have to slow down in order to speed up. That's about being respectful of the human beings making business decisions that affect their identity, their career, their day-to-day, their efficiency, their teams. I mean, these are important decisions no matter the size or scope of what they're purchasing. And so I'm always like, why would you want to blow up your future customers' experience because you don't have time for that marketing nonsense? No. This is about building a respectful journey for a human being that needs you or doesn't need you. And so maybe it's okay to put time and thoughtfulness into this.
I think one of the things that people really mean when they say, well, the marketing's not working. Well, we're getting marketing qualified leads, but we're not getting sales qualified leads, because they think that, 100% of marketing qualified leads are going to turn into sales qualified leads.
Right.
What they're really saying is this human is not doing the thing that I want them to do. Why aren't they doing it? And they don't realize it because what they're seeing is here are all these steps in this marketing. And what they're not realizing is there is that human being on the other side who does need to have some time and some breathing space and to have their fears allayed at each step of the way so they can actually make a decision. Because as you always say, the biggest competitor is no decision.
Yes.
Most B2B buyers are not choosing your competitor. They're choosing to just not do anything because they're too overwhelmed and they cannot make a confident decision. So if you were sitting across from someone who is in that quandary, who is in that chaos and confusion, you wouldn't be just like, well, here's the paperwork, sign it now. What's wrong with you? Well, maybe you would, and that's a salesperson you should fire. But it's a nuanced and it's a complicated relationship.
I love this. And, it immediately leads me to the next one. Like having this humanity conversation leads me to the next one. And the blind assumption is that it's just a numbers game in order to be successful. Oh gosh, not anymore, you guys. Now, there was a time I was actually in sales only at this time where the dialing for dollars, the number of knocks, calls, meetings, drop-bys, gifts, anything that you did would eventually have a predictable attrition rate that you could count on converting through the sales pipeline. No to the no to the no. That does not guarantee success anymore. Now, it's funny because now I still am a big believer in tracking all the numbers as you are and activity metrics in regards to sales. I still am a huge believer. These are absolutely critical. But just blindly dialing for dollars or thinking that you can abdicate responsibility and just give it to an outsourced company just because they have a ton of volume does not mean that there are predictable conversion points where human beings are going to opt in and say, yes, I really am interested in what you're saying. So that blind, it's a numbers game, drives me nuts because not anymore.
And this is actually, there's some wishful thinking that goes into it, and it seems reasonable if you don't understand the marketing landscape that we're in. So if somebody comes to a business owner and says, we've got 50,000 people that we can email and do this phone campaign for on your behalf, in that business owner's mind, it's like, well, I only need 50 new customers. So, 50,000, I mean, surely 1 out of 1,000.
Oh.
Surely 1 out of 1,000 will say yes. Nope.
Exactly. And Daisy brings up such a great point that this numbers game is their sales tactic, not your logic for rational, thoughtful return on investment for your sales goals and your marketing activity. So absolutely, because of course it sounds so reasonable because you just again, want the easy button. You want the thing that will work so fast. But, thinking about the numbers game, this is just the wrong place for it.
It is. And when you're playing that level of numbers game, all you're doing is harming your brand reputation.
Yeah. Oh, God. Ooh.
I mean, if 50,000 people are saying, why are you wasting my time? You didn't just not get anything out of that engagement. You actively hurt your brand by spamming people with marketing messaging that does not resonate with them.
Are you a CEO of a business-to-business company? Maybe you're a sales leader or a salesperson, or maybe you're in business-to-business marketing. Well, if so, I wrote a book for you, and it's called Corporate Caffeine. Business-to-business marketing is different, but there are certain predictable fundamental principles that will help you unleash your organizational potential and fill your pipeline sustainably. So you can find my book on Audible, on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com, or any of your favorite retailers. Hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So you had a third one on there that I just thought was so right on point about why we've got to be careful with our assumptions when considering a B2B lead gen system.
Sure. This is an issue that I see a lot of times with people that want to outsource, and they think that they're working with a company that's somehow magically an expert on their exact ideal persona, on their brand positioning within their marketplace, on exactly what triggers it's going to take to move people through the pipeline for their specific product or service. And to be honest, unless you're in a highly commoditized market, which, number one, that means they're just using the same lead gen tactics for all of your competitors that they're doing for you. Your B2B company, what's special about your buyers is going to be something that outside agency can't just figure out or make up or intuit. They are really just going to be plugging you into something that they built that maybe worked for this client or that client, but there is no guarantee that it's going to work for you because it's not built for your buyers. It's not choreographing the journey that's going to help them move forward.
Yeah, this one, I appreciate what you're saying about that so much. I mean, like we have a client now who's been on board with us for a couple months, and we went head to head with an outsourced B2B like service company. And it was the most strange, mind-bending experience because when I'm selling to somebody, I'm not ever convincing them it's us. I'm literally trying to serve, like, here's what you need to know. Even if you don't work with us, here's what you need to know. And so it was literally one of those scenarios where I just said, can you send me the contract and I will just walk you through? And here's what I saw. So many tactics, so many deliverables, like this avalanche. And it's kind of the emotional equivalent of that numbers game. Like, look how much you're getting for your money. You're not buying marketing things. You want sales qualified leads, which is at the heart of this. But then when you start getting in the weeds with this, all those details start making you feel comfortable. Getting all these landing pages, I'm getting all these phone calls, I'm getting all these scripts, I'm getting all of these whiz-bang ad campaigns. There's so many questions that need to happen behind every single one of those touch points. But so it can feel sneaky, like to feel confident about how much is being delivered. It shouldn't matter what's being delivered. It should only matter how effective this is. And so going through that one size fits all, and here's the other place that this comes up. And I've been a part of a CEO roundtable group for years. Like I'm a big proponent of these. I speak for them. This happens in Vistage, in Convene, in C12, you name your favorite CEO peer table. And somebody in that room will be like, we just turned on this amazing blah, 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 and it's worked fantastic. And everybody writes down that name and goes back to their director of marketing or their agency and is like, we want to do that. Or worst case scenario, they call them. And then they are so shocked 6 months later when they have wasted tens of thousands of dollars because it worked for their friend.
Right.
Holy cow. And there's the assumptions that back to that one size fits all, it will not guarantee success for you just because it did work for someone else.
Sure. And I was guilty of this as a business owner myself. I drank the Kool-Aid. I bought into what I was told. It's like, oh yeah, we know how to work with businesses like yours. $15,000 later on a Facebook funnel that brought me nothing and just exposed my intellectual property to somebody who tried to steal it. Oh yeah.
Oh,
been there. So if you've done this,
yes.
don't feel bad. you know what? Any of us who've been out there trying to grow a business, trying to generate leads, trying to build a pipeline, we've all spent on stuff that didn't work. And our goal here in today's session, in today's episode, is to make sure you don't do it again.
Exactly. Now, I did say earlier that B2B lead generation services can work for you. So how do you make sure that they will work for you? So where do we always start, Daisy? I know, like, I hope at some point they start being like, they're about to say buyer personas, you know, like
Right.
I'm hoping so much people are like, okay, starting to get strategic fundamentals down. But we always start with buyer personas. Why?
Because it's human beings that you're selling to.
Yeah.
You're B2B, sure. That just means sometimes you're selling to multiple human beings within an organization, but there is no faceless organization out there that's making a purchasing decision like a robot. It's always human beings. And your human beings, your ideal customers, if you have any kind of good brand differentiation, if you're doing something that's different and better or unique in some way, you do have a buyer persona that is nuanced enough that it's different than any other persona out there. And we have been doing buyer personas for about 15 years.
Easy, yeah.
Long time. And even though I've worked with many companies that are in the same industry, and sometimes those that sell almost exactly the same services, every single one of them has nuances in their buyer personas that are different. As a great example, I've worked with companies that sell to COOs. And typically, in a lot of industries, that's a very straightforward, process-focused, more of an engineering background and mindset. You have predictable things that they care about and predictable things that are not as important to them. But if you're talking to a COO in the quick serve industry that does, restaurant franchises, in the hospitality sector, that is a completely different personality. They are the life of the party. They are out there slapping backs and shaking hands and making friends, and they are all about the people. So you can't just assume that a persona, even if it's the same title and the same role, is going to be the same from one company to the next.
Oh my gosh. Anytime a client says, oh, I sell to small businesses, or oh, I sell to CEOs, or financial services is notorious for this. Well, anybody that needs to retire. Like, no, that is not a buyer persona.
Anybody with money is actually what they
exactly.
say.
Anybody with money. That's exactly right. So, yeah, I love that. And I think the one thing I always want to reiterate to people is that this is not slowing down to speed up. This is so fundamentally critical to not wasting money. Because here's the deal, you guys. Tactics are specific to the humans you are marketing to. So, for instance, is your ad on Google? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Instagram? Is it somewhere else? We even have B2B services firms that are on Pinterest. So where is your ad? Because that ad is simply about, does your human being that you're trying to serve, do they go there? Do they go there for information? Is it a trustworthy source? Will they convert there? Because just because it worked on LinkedIn for somebody does not mean it's going to work for your buyer personas. So I think that's the fundamental core I always want people to remember is this is not marketing for marketing's sakes. This is how you make decisions that work. And so that mound of deliverables that we talked about is only good if it really matches the humans and how they like to purchase, how they like to research, and what's trustworthy to them.
Yes. And this is a process that you have to be involved in. You can't ask a third party to bring this information to you, although if they're experienced, they should be bringing you the framework and the discovery process and some additional insights about your buyer persona. But this has to come from within your organization, the people who are in contact with your target market and your customers and have been for years and years and years. This is the deep information you need to bring to the table for this.
Absolutely. So then the next thing, of course, after we're documenting the buyer personas is mapping the sales process, because there's two human beings on each side of this, right? There's the one that's going to buy and there's the one that's going to sell to them, or better way to put it is be a guide on their buyer's journey. And so mapping the sales process and the buyer's journey together so you can see how they work is so important. And here's the thing. So let's pretend that, so first of all, we already talked about tactics, matching the buyer persona, but let's say that they got it right? That the touches are actually reaching the target market and they're getting, hopefully, qualified sales meetings. If you do not have the full sales map documented and your sales team gets on a call and there's a break between what that scheduler said and what your sales team said, or the buyer is further ahead in the journey and the salesperson's trying to catch up, there are so many friction points that hurt your brand and totally flush that opportunity straight down the toilet. So marketing and sales alignment is absolutely critical when we're thinking about B2B lead generation services.
And outsourced B2B lead generation can work as long as you understand that no agency, no firm, no professional services organization is going to be able to just say, oh, here's all your sales qualified leads. Oh, toss them over the fence and see what happens and expect that that's going to work well. So it is making sure that it's one cohesive system. Even if there's internal responsibilities and external responsibilities, they have to be in a continuous feedback loop, or you won't be able to optimize that lead gen outsourcing.
And then that leads me to the next one, which is really aligned with this. I want companies that are effective at using technology and tracking. That starts intriguing me because I'm like, okay, if there's some very good rationale and some very good collaboration with that, lead gen service, then I want those salespeople knowing like where those leads are, what they need to do in the CRM, what's the tracking, and how much did we get? Like, what was the conversion of these type of meetings? Like, how many turned into what size contracts? How long did it take? Are they different than our standard leads that we typically get? So that's another thing is I get really nervous about these unless there's been some fundamental work about process and technology adoption so that if somebody has come into your database, that there's some tracking and support around that. And it always goes back to being respectful so that if that lead gets handed off, we know where the buyer's been, they can see the notes, and we can meet them where they're actually at.
I think that brings us to our third and final point, which is you have to have a lead ecosystem.
Yes.
So
Yes.
One of the challenges with B2B lead outsourcing is that most folks out there who do lead gen for you are going to be doing one tactic. They're not going to be looking at the full range of what they can be doing. So first of all, digital marketing is not just Google Ads. Digital marketing is paid ads. It could be paid social media. It includes email. It includes the chat bots that are on your website. It includes a whole array of digital activities and touch points. So if you're looking for a partner to do that lead generation for you, they need to be looking at all the touch points, all the places that your buyers go, not just one, not just two, but what are all the touch points? Because it does take a lot of touches to get people through a B2B lead funnel. And then, of course, the other one is you shouldn't be relying on just one lead source.
Yeah, it increases your risk so much because even if a digital lead source works really, really well, they will change their algorithm and then they're going to change it again and then they're going to change it again. And also buyer behavior changes as technology changes. And so what worked a year ago or 2 years ago will change because eventually us humans get used to that and we start blocking it out. We start paying attention to other things or changing our behavior. And it's amazing to watch those trends. But it's very important when we're thinking about a marketing ecosystem. Here's why. 7 to 13 touches for them to remember and recognize your name and to align it with a problem that they have. And then on average, 5 to 12 sales follow-ups to close a deal. That is a lot of touches where your messaging has to be consistent, your brand has to be consistent, you should be tracking across as many of those touch points as possible, and you are setting up an amazing customer experience for a person whose loyalty and whose lifespan you want. And that's how you really maximize return on investment. And the one other thing about the ecosystem is that you're throwing away tomorrow's sales if you do not have things that keep people interested. The buyers that are going to buy 6 months from now or 12 months from now or 18 months from now, they're already cataloging their options. They're already tracking and paying attention. And so, holy cow, why not set yourself up for success and starting greasing those wheels and making next year's number easier to hit because you already started getting people closer, well, top of the funnel, but still starting to be inside of your pipeline. That's just a huge advantage that people just miss out on if they
It
don't
is.
do
So
this.
that's really the other piece of ecosystem is an ecosystem will always include marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads.
Yeah.
If all you're doing is generating sales qualified leads, that's not lead generation. That's, lead activation with no plan for the future.
Exactly. As chief marketing officers, we want you to have lead generation that is efficient and the fastest path to revenue as possible. But the reason that we are able to create that for people and for companies is because of the strategy and the decision-making criteria behind the decisions. So is a B2B lead gen service right for you? Maybe, as long as you know the fundamental principles of why it will work and when you should run for the hills, or take a little bit of time to analyze and map out your options ahead of time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun for us. And if you guys have specific questions, if you've heard of a specific example, we would love to hear it. And so post it in our comments, reach out to either one of us on social media, or hit us up at themarketingblender.com. And you guys, hit that subscribe button, tell your mom, tell your brother, tell your nephew, tell your intern, tell your marketing director. Come check us out. We'll see you next week. Onward and upward.